Hello, welcome back to week 2 of LDST 404, Mentoring and Team Building. Last week we discussed how leaders initiate and sustain necessary changes. We identified some of the icebergs in your own life. Now, why did we choose to have you read Our Iceberg is Melting, that is a parable? Well, the author discusses the fact that parables, in Cotter's words, have the ability to recognize yourself and others in the story. It gives us that ability. We're able to see ourselves, we're able to see others, we're able to understand situations and circumstances in a whole new way when we use parables. It also gives us a holistic understanding of the change process. We see this in a story form. It's not just 8 cold steps of factual information, but we see how it is activated and integrated into the lives of these penguins and their crisis to find a new iceberg as their iceberg is melting. And finally, it helps us see ourselves as qualified and capable of leading change efforts. So many times we find ourselves as leaders in situations we've never been in before. We're unsure we have the ability or the means or the wisdom or the skills or the resources necessary to lead change. But what Cotter helps us with in this parable is to see that situations reveal our ability to lead and to lead change. And so we hope that parable was beneficial for you. We hope it helped you see yourself. We hope it helped you see others in your lives and in the situations, the icebergs that you're facing, and lead people through change. Our week 2 focus is understanding yourself and your team. Our lesson today fulfills the course outcome number 1, how to identify successful team building and strategies. All leadership starts with self-leadership. We have to learn to lead ourselves first. And the reason this is important is because every leader must do the hard work of self-understanding and understanding those you lead. Why? And our reading this week really identifies the why. It's a great read. Bolsinger, in his book, just states the fact people resist change. You personally resist change, and you resist the change that's needed in this situation. Those you lead are resisting change. And in the reading this week from Tempered Resilience, it'll help you recognize this and identify some aspects of you as the leader. It'll help you identify your fears, your insecurities, your self-doubt, because leading others challenges these things in our lives. The fire just bubbles these up to the surface for us as a leader. The pressure, the tenseness of leadership, the weight, the heat of leadership bubbles these up to the surface in our lives, and we have to recognize them and be able to respond to them correct emotionally. You'll also need to know the fears, insecurities, and self-doubt of those you lead. Why? Because you have to inspire them. You have to encourage them. You have to direct them towards the change that's necessary. Now, remember again, Bolsinger says, people resist change. We all resist change. But learning these things about ourselves and about those that we lead will help us not abandon the change process. You see, Bolsinger introduces the imagery of a forge and a blacksmith and the process of shaping metal and the heat that takes place there. And he says that transformational leadership, therefore, is always about the transformation and growth of a people, starting with the leader. The first transformation, the first aspect of change will be around you as the leader, to develop the resiliency and the adaptive capacity to cut wisely through resistance and accomplish the mission of the group. You see, what Bolsinger does so well is introduce the fact that there will always be resistance, and that we have to be self-aware and have the emotional intelligence as the leader for those that we lead to lead through the resistance to accomplish the mission or the change that needs to take place in the group. When we look at this biblically, we see this in Moses' life. Early in Moses' leadership, we see this. In Exodus chapter 5, verse 17 to 21, Moses has been given the commission to go deliver the children of Israel. And God says, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go tell Pharaoh that to let my people go. So Moses goes to Pharaoh, and this is Pharaoh's response. Pharaoh says, lazy, that is what you are, lazy. That is why you keep asking, let us go and sacrifice to the Lord. Now get to work. You will not be given any straw yet. You must produce your full quota of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized they were in trouble when they were told, you're not to reduce the number of bricks required of you for each day. When they left Pharaoh, they found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet them, and they said, may the Lord look on you and judge you. You have made us obnoxious to Pharaoh and his officials and have put a sword in their hand to kill us. Now, why is this significant? Betrayal is always going to be a part of leadership. In any leadership process, sabotage is the word Bolsinger uses. And we see this. We see this in Exodus 5. God sends Moses to deliver Israel from Egypt. He shares with the people that God has sent him as a representative to speak to Pharaoh. But when Pharaoh refuses to release the Israelites and require more bricks without providing straw, the sabotage, in the words of Bolsinger, takes place. You would think the Israelites would be mad at Pharaoh after 400 years of slavery and say, this is it. It's the final straw. You're breaking our backs. We want out of here. But instead, they turn on Moses and say, Moses, you have caused this. You have caused Pharaoh to want to kill us. You see, that sabotage is what takes place in every leader's life and the experience of every leader when he's leading a change process. But see, what we have to guard against is what Bolsinger describes in pages 24 through 29 as a failure of nerve or a failure of heart. And when leading change, we must be aware that sabotage is normal. And sabotage often leads to failure of nerve or failure of heart. And Bolsinger defines a failure of nerve as caving to the pressure of a group's anxiety to return to the status quo. See, Moses has been sent to deliver the children of Israel. But a failure of nerve would be Moses saying, no, you're right. Let's just keep it the way it's always been. You being slaves is better than the cost of change. So let's just keep things the way they are. Or a leader may suffer from a failure of heart. That's the emotional cutoff which occurs when a leader's discouragement leads them to psychologically abandon their people and the charge they've been given. In this example, Moses may come back to the children of Israel and go, you're mad at me? He's your slave driver. He's the Pharaoh. He's the one that's kept you in slavery for 400 years, and you're mad at me? That's it. I'm out. I quit. I'm leaving. I'm going back to my sheep. I had a good life. I was a wealthy man in the desert. I don't need this. I'm out. That's a failure of heart. And see, leaders, every time we're leading a change process, we have the chance of a failure of nerve or a failure of heart every time there's a sabotage. And often sabotage is not a one-time occurrence. So we need to recognize these. That's why we have to recognize our own doubts and fears and insecurities, because when this sabotage happens, how are we not going to have a failure of nerve or failure of heart? And that's why we got to know the doubts and fears and insecurities of the people we lead so that they don't have a failure of nerve or a failure of heart. So we have to encourage them. We have to lead them because we've led ourselves well first. So this week, as we're looking at this, we're going to work on our portfolio assignment for the first time. And this assignment introduces you as the student, as a coworker. And what you're trying to describe is how you work and communicate, your strengths and your weaknesses. Your intended audience is a newly hired team member that you're developing. So this would be someone who's working for you, and you're introducing yourself and how you work and how you want to partner with them and build a team with them. And what you're creating is a living document that facilitates effective communication and collaboration. As a leader, remember, you have to lead yourself first. So how do you lead, and how do you lead well, and how do you work well with others? And you're creating this so that in every leadership position, you know how to communicate to others so that they can work well with you. Also, we're going to do our reading reflection again this week. And from our reading reflection, when has there been a time in your leadership where you suffered from either a failure of nerve or a failure of heart? You've had a betrayal. Like Moses, maybe you want to abandon the deliverance plan of God, or abandon the children of Israel. You see, we have to know as leaders, which one are we more susceptible to and why? What in our life has formed us or impacted us that will make us maybe have a failure of nerve or a failure of heart? And maybe you want to share about one of those experiences, and now you can see it and you can define it in a way that you never had before. And then our final assignment for this week is the reading response. Please give us the pages of the percentage of the pages that you read. Review the main themes and the analysis of the author's perspective, and give us an application of what you read. I hope you're enjoying the information. We know you're doing a great job. Thank you so much for your hard work in week 1, and we're looking forward to your work in week 2. Please know that we believe this course will help you be a better leader, not just accomplish and learn from a course moving towards your degree completion, but this course will help you in every aspect of your life, personally, your family, the leadership positions you have now currently, and the leadership positions you'll have in the future. And we believe as we grow in our self-awareness, we will become resistant to a failure of nerve and a failure of heart in our lives. Thank you. We look forward to looking at all your work. Have a great week.